So, Anne, you go to the movies a lot. When I go to the movie theater now, I usually go to see older movies because there's just not a whole lot of new stuff that really appeals to me. And sometimes the new stuff is in and out of the theater so quick you don't even necessarily get a chance to go check it out. But you kind of make it a point, like, to go to the movies. I know you told me once you go like twice a week, if you can, to see new
when
stuff.
I can.
So I'm wondering, what have you seen lately?
Yeah, the latest one I saw was The Brutalist by Brady Corbett, I think his name is. And I must say it was quite a cinema experience. I would say an adventure because it was pretty long. I don't know if you know about it, but this film is more than 3 hours. And you know what I feel about long movies.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I was a bit stressed
That
about
is brutal.
my bladder. could my bladder support it? But actually, I did. So I felt like I've risen the challenge of a lifetime, you know. But except the duration, because to be frank with you, for me this film could have been just 2 hours and a half. Really, they take time to explain things. But except that, this movie is a masterpiece. I would say 3 things really important about this movie. The first one, the cinematography. I'm sure you would love it. I don't know if you heard about it, but it was shot in VistaVision. I believe you say that way. So you have a wide angle on the screen. I mean, it's huge. It's really something to watch it on a big screen. I recommend it to you. And the third thing I think is the fact that you have amazing actors. Adrian Brody, as we said, and I heard that there is a bad buzz about his accent because apparently he was helped with AI for the accent. I don't know about it, but except that, I mean, even if you don't consider the accent, the performance is amazing. And you have Felicity Jones. She was really mind-blowing, her performance. She has just a secondary role, but the time she's on screen, it's wow, really, I loved it. And Guy Pearce. I know this guy because for me he's one of the sexiest guy, and yeah, he has 2 sides in this movie. So he's the good guy at the beginning, I mean the altruist and rich guy at the beginning, and at the end you see the devil, you know. So really I loved it. And I was really upset that he didn't get anything, no Golden Globes and no Oscar for this performance. But anyway, you know how it is. And I wanted to add that you have like a visual narration. I don't know if it speaks to you, but really it's not everything is said, but you understand, and it's really the type of movie I like. You know, in Europe we have this kind of narration too. So it's a European, I believe he's from Hungary. So his name is Laszlo, and he comes to America to rebuild his life, to start over, because it's right after World War II. So he thinks he's gonna live the American dream, and at the beginning, in a way, he lives the American dream. He has family, I believe it's in Pennsylvania. So it gets kind of easy at the beginning for him to have a job, even if he doesn't have the job he used to have, because he was an architect in Europe, and of course he cannot have this kind of job in America when he arrives because he doesn't master the language and everything. And so this is the first part of the movie. You really have the rise of the American dream at the beginning. Then you have a break. During 15 minutes you have a break, but you still have the atmosphere in the room because they still put music on, and you have on the screen you have a picture of Adrian Brody and the atmosphere and everything. So if you want, you can keep the atmosphere thanks to that. And then the second part is really the descent to hell. I don't know if you say that, but you see the hidden reality and everything. So it's really well done. I prefer the second part, but I heard that most people prefer the first part. But it's really an experience. It's quite long, but it's something you should try. So, and you, Steve, what did you watch?
Well, I watched a movie that I had seen one time before. I think it was if it wasn't last year, it was definitely the year before. But it was pretty recent. It's called The Driver from 1978. Walter Hill directed it, starring Bruce Dern and Ryan O'Neal. And I went back specifically the first time I had watched it to check it out because it's supposed to be the inspiration for movies like Drive with Ryan Gosling, Baby Driver from Edgar Wright, and had influences on Quentin Tarantino's work. It influenced a lot of people's work. So let me go check this out. And it was a cool movie. I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was solid. I see definitely the inspiration that it had on the films I mentioned and definitely on Tarantino. I think it still holds up. I think it's still a really good movie. It's like a raw, gritty, that's 1978, so it's got that cool vibe to it.
Well, and it's Walter Hill. You
yeah.
know, he doesn't really pull any punches.
And it's a good one. So if you haven't seen it, and if you've seen like Baby Driver, if you've seen Drive, I definitely recommend going to see that. Now, having said that, Drive, I watched them like in the same week. So Drive is definitely more stylized. It definitely has a more of a cool factor to it, and the story is also a little bit more layered, and the storytelling is a little more. It's a little deeper than The Driver, but we don't get there without that one. So. Yeah, I definitely recommend checking that one out. That was a pretty good one. And it was nice to revisit. I was like, well, I liked it the first time. Let me see on a second viewing if it holds my attention, if I still think it's as good as I thought it was when I first saw it. And yeah, I think it did. I think it held up well. So, yeah, if you can, check it out.
The Driver.
Actually, I think it's on YouTube in its entirety for free.
Oh,
I think that's where I
Good to
watched
know.
it, if I remember correctly. So, yeah. So if you can, it's on there, and it's quick running time. I think it's like an hour and a half.
Oh, that's
perfect.
so much more appealing than The Brutalist.
Yeah, maybe an hour and 40, but I don't think I don't really recall. Yeah, but if you can, check it out, especially if it's free on YouTube.
Yeah, and if that link is available, I'll post it in the description of this video so people can head right over and take a drive. Give it a test drive.
It's worth it.
Well, I saw a bunch of movies, but one that really kind of stuck out to me, like it, sometimes you watch a movie and it's like, oh yeah, that's cool, and it, like you move on, or it's like, oh, that wasn't that cool, and you move on. And then there's movies that kind of keep rattling around in your head, and it's like you're trying to figure out like how you feel about it. You have mixed feelings, and one of those movies for me I recently watched was Saturday Night, which is about the premiere of Saturday Night Live. And it's directed by Jason Reitman, co-written and produced by Jason Reitman along with Gil Kenan, who co-wrote Ghostbusters Afterlife and Frozen Empire, and Gil directed Frozen Empire. So they got this like little, bromance, cinematic bromance going on here. And, the idea was appealing because I grew up watching Saturday Night Live. Like, I love Saturday Night Live. Even when I was a little kid, they would play like the original cast shows on Nick at Night, super late at night. It was like, Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. And of course, I was watching it because it starred the Ghostbusters,
And Clark
and
Griswold.
It was, yeah, and it was just them being funny. So of course I'm going to watch old Saturday Night Live when I'm a little kid. And then as you get older and, it becomes part of popular culture. So like when I was really watching the show was like the early 90s with Chris Farley and Adam Sandler. And of course my personal favorite, Phil Hartman, I love that man forever and a day. And Dana Carvey, that was really my cast of Saturday Night Live. And by the time Will Ferrell showed up, I had kind of like checked out and moved on to other things. Like I was aware of it still, but I wasn't actively tuning in the way I was in the early 90s. Because also they had great musical guests during that period. That was my time for that show. But it's an institution that I am fond of and I have a lot of respect for. And so I was very curious to check out this movie because the premise for this movie is basically it's the 90 minutes leading up to the first show, which is 90 minutes. And I feel like it was just kind of a misfire. I don't know. Did either of you guys get to see it?
No, but I heard that Chevy Chase was at the premiere, and then after the movie, he told Jason Reitman he should be ashamed of himself and walked away.
Well, yeah, and I can kind of see that, but you know what? Like, basically, for me, it failed because of the narrative direction and storytelling. So it was all Jason Reitman and Gil Keenan's fault as far as I'm concerned. The cast was great. The cast was fantastic, especially considering they're actually performing actual people. You know, they're not like original characters that they're creating. But in some instances, they were like over the top. It was just over the top chaos for the most part. The main character, Lorne Michaels, played by Gabriel LaBelle, he played Sammy Fableman in The Fablemans. He did a great job. He was fantastic, and the whole cast was great, but I feel like they were just misdirected in some situations because, again, the movie takes place in a 90-minute window, but the movie is about 110 minutes, so they're trying to do that real-time thing, but they're not.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was like the biggest kind of failure. The movie either should have done a strict, like, you know, real-time telling of the events, and honestly, if they wanted to take it up a notch, they should have kept it all in like one take, like Birdman or Rope. You know, they should have like gone down that road and just like rehearsed the hell out of it and just like kept the energy of the and intensity of that like window of time before they go live on national television. If they didn't do that, then they should have done the week leading up to it and have the third act be before showtime, because not everybody knows what Saturday Night Live is. I'm sorry. That's, you know, it's like a very American thing. It's a very cultural specific thing, you know. And do you know about Saturday Night Live? Do you care about Saturday Night Live?
I don't. I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't care, but it's not something that I follow. But I knew about it because I lived in English-speaking countries and they watch it, but in France, I'm pretty sure nobody knows about it. I mean, real French that never traveled, they don't know about it.
But this is a movie that should have, you know, an international appeal, especially when it's like the foundation for so much great comedy and characters and actors and
movie
performers.
Stars.
You know, like, this is ground zero for like a whole legacy, dynasty, generation of entertainment. And it really just kind of pigeonholes itself, where it's like, if you don't know anything about Saturday Night Live and you go to watch this movie, you're not going to learn a whole lot. And you're not going to care that much either, you know? There was one scene where I laughed out loud. One joke that made me laugh. And other than that, it was just like, well, these people are just really proud of themselves, aren't they? You know, and like, I'm not even just talking about like the people on screen, but like the people behind the camera. It's like, oh, aren't they clever? Well, I hope they don't break their arms patting themselves on the back.
Yeah, I wanted to see it, but like we had said earlier, the movies sometimes don't stay in the theater very long. And if they're not making money, they're definitely not going to stay in the theater very long. So I didn't get to see this one. And then I started hearing poor reviews. I was like, well, I guess I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah, it's no big rush. I was pretty disappointed across the board, you know. And Jason Reitman, I don't not like him, but I don't love him. You know, he's hit or miss for me. I like Thank You for Smoking. I didn't really like Juno. Up in the Air was okay. I didn't see Young Adult. Afterlife was good. Frozen Empire wasn't as good, you know. And this one is kind of on the downside of things. So, but I can't take anything away from the cast. The cast was great, and the production design was good. I mean, if you've ever watched Saturday Night Live or even just seen some stuff, like they nailed a lot of things with accuracy. They also nailed a lot of things with inaccuracy, which was also kind of a little disappointing because it's not like this isn't well documented. You can go on YouTube right now and watch that first episode, and you can just see how sharp the timing is versus how sharp it isn't in the film. And the film can be edited to be sharper, you know what I mean? So it's right away there's just like overindulgent, and it's just a misfire in my opinion.
That sucks to hear. I was excited about it.
So those are the coming distractions for this week.